My name is Daniel, and I'll never forget the night my class stayed overnight at the Clearwater Aquarium. It was supposed to be the coolest field trip of the year, a sleepover inside the aquarium, where we'd set up our sleeping bags in front of the massive shark tank. The air smelled faintly of salt and glass cleaner. The water in the tanks glowed an otherworldly shade of blue, casting ripples of light across the walls. Sharks drifted lazily above us, their shadows huge and slow. Teachers told corny ghost stories, and everyone laughed, unzipping chips and candy bags, daring each other to press our faces close to the glass. It felt magical, like we were sleeping under the sea. At least at first. Sometime after midnight, the aquarium grew quiet. The laughter died down, replaced by the low hum of filters and the distant echo of dripping water. That's when I noticed the tanks looked different. Darker. The shark tank especially. The water seemed deeper than before, as if it didn't have a bottom. I rubbed my eyes, thinking I was just tired. But then, I saw it. Something moving in the blackness. Not a shark. Bigger. Slower. Its shadow passed behind the glass, blotting out the faint blue glow. I whispered to my friend Jenna, but when she looked, it was gone. We both laughed nervously, brushing it off. But then a sound broke the silence, a muffled splash. We turned. One of the sleeping bags, right near the glass, was empty. The kid who'd been there, Kyle, was just gone. His bag was zipped up, perfectly neat, like he'd never been there at all. The teachers thought he'd wandered off to the bathroom. They told us to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I swore I heard whispers, like voices underwater, rising and fading with the current. More bags started emptying, one by one. No sound, no struggle, just gone. By 2 a.m., there were maybe 10 of us left awake, huddled together, eyes fixed on the massive tank. The water churned, rippling like a storm was brewing inside. Something pressed against the glass from the other side. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light. But then I saw it. A pale, webbed hand. Fingers too long. Nails sharp like fish bones. It dragged across the glass with a screech, leaving trails of frost where it touched. And then another. And another. Dozens of hands. Jenna screamed when the glass began to ripple, like it wasn't solid anymore, but liquid. The first kid who was too close, Mark, was yanked backward. He didn't even have time to stand. The surface of the glass swallowed him whole. I'll never forget the way his face looked, pressed against the glass on the other side, mouth wide open in a silent scream as he sank into the darkness. Chaos erupted. Kids ran, teachers shouted, but the exits were locked. Every direction we turned, that tank seemed to follow us, stretching across walls that hadn't even been glass before. The water boiled with shadows. The pale hands dragged more of my classmates inside, one after another, their bodies twisting and thrashing until they disappeared. Jenna grabbed my arm, crying, but the glass pulsed again, and she was ripped away from me. Her face slammed against the glass, eyes wide, bubbles leaving her mouth as she vanished beneath a swarm of shadows. I was the last one. The glass rippled. The hands reached for me. And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes, it was morning. The teachers were walking through the exhibit, cheerful as ever. The sunlight streamed through the windows. The sleeping bags were all still there, neatly arranged, but empty. Every single one of them. They said nothing had happened, that no one had gone missing. But as the sharks glided calmly behind the glass, I saw them. Faces, pressed faintly into the reflection. Mouths open in silent screams. And among them my own. My name's John, and I'll never forget the night we spent at the zoo. It was supposed to be a harmless school trip, a little educational sleepover. Our teachers pitched it like an adventure, a chance to sleep in sleeping bags, right near the animals, with the kind of memories we'd laugh about for years. We arrived at dusk, backpacks slung over shoulders, whispering jokes, and trying to look braver than we were. The air was heavy with the smell of hay, damp earth, and that strange musk only animals can carry. They led us to the big cat enclosure, and even though it was safe, thick glass between us and them, you could feel the lion's eyes tracking us. They yawned, baring teeth longer than my fingers, before settling back into lazy heaps of golden fur. We laid our sleeping bags in rows. Kids told ghost stories in hushed voices, flashlights flickered against the walls, and somewhere, a monkey screeched into the night. It felt exciting, special, but underneath it all, something about the place felt wrong. The zoo at night was nothing like the zoo during the day. By midnight, everything had changed. The air was colder, heavier. The sound of insects had gone quiet, replaced by a low, constant hum, like the whole place was breathing. I sat up in my sleeping bag when I noticed it. The enclosures didn't look the same anymore. The bars of the big cat cage were bent inward, as if something had clawed its way out. The shadows moved too much, like they were stretching themselves into shapes that didn't belong. "Did you see that?" my friend whispered, pointing toward the reptile house. The glass shimmered. For a moment, I thought I saw a reflection of myself inside. Except it wasn't a reflection. It was me, pale and distorted, pressing against the glass. Our teacher, Mr. Collins, tried to calm us down. He told us to stay put while he made a quick patrol of the grounds. His flashlight beam bobbed away into the darkness, and we never saw him again. That's when the whispers started. Soft voices calling our names. From the reptile house, from the aviary, from the shadows behind the cages. I swear, one of them whispered, "Alex, come closer." My throat went dry, because it sounded exactly like me. The first scream came from near the elephant enclosure. We rushed toward the sound, only to find something far worse than lions or snakes. The animals were gone. Every single enclosure was empty. No lions, no giraffes, no bears. Instead, pacing inside the cages were kids. Our classmates. Some were on all fours, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Their movements were jerky, animalistic. Others pressed their faces to the glass, smearing bloody handprints as they mouthed silent pleas to be let out. I recognized one of them. It was Jenna. She was supposed to be sleeping in her bag just a few feet from me. But here she was, crouched in the hyena pen, teeth bared in a horrible grin, her nails scraping at the bars. We ran. We didn't care where, just away. The zoo was twisting now, the paths looping into themselves, enclosures melting together like a nightmare. The air reeked of copper, wet fur, and blood. And all around us, the cages rattled with fists and claws. "Alex." I froze. One of them, something in the gorilla enclosure, was staring straight at me. Its body was too big, too hunched, but the face. It was mine. My own face, staring back at me, eyes glowing, lips curled into a snarl. The glass cracked as it slammed its fist against it. I don't remember how I got out. I don't even remember running. All I know is, I woke up at home the next morning in my own bed. My mom said the trip had gone fine, that nothing unusual happened. But when I looked around school that Monday, there were fewer of us. Desks that used to be filled were empty, and no one seemed to notice. No one even remembered those kids existed. Years have passed since that night. The zoo still advertises its overnight educational programs. Families still go, and sometimes, late at night, I'll look at the commercials or the brochures, and I'll see the animals in their cages. Only, their eyes are wrong. Too human. And if you look long enough to catch their gaze, you'll realize they don't blink. My name is Alex, and this is the story of the field trip that never should have happened. It was supposed to be simple. Our 8th grade science class was headed to a state fair, just an hour's drive from school. The kind of trip where you half pay attention to the exhibits, eat overpriced pizza, and beg your friends for extra quarters at the vending machines. We climbed onto the bus as the sun was setting, the sky streaked in orange and pink. The seats smelled faintly of old vinyl and gasoline, that familiar mix that every school bus seems to carry. Everyone was in high spirits. Laughter bounced down the aisle as backpacks thudded against the floor, candy wrappers crinkled, and someone in the back strummed a guitar they weren't supposed to bring. It felt normal, comfortable, but I've learned that the scariest stories always start that way. At first, I didn't notice how long we'd been driving. I sat by the window, watching the neighborhoods roll by, streetlights flickering on one by one. The hum of the engine lulled me into that half-awake state where the world feels soft and distant. But after what felt like hours, I realized something was off. The neighborhoods were gone. Instead of streets and gas stations, there were trees. Thick, endless woods pressing close to the road. Black branches scratched the night sky like claws. I checked my phone. No service. No map. Just a blinking clock telling me it was nearly midnight. "Hey, shouldn't we be there by now?" someone shouted. The driver didn't answer. I leaned into the aisle, trying to get a better look. He sat perfectly still, his hands locked on the wheel, shoulders stiff. "Excuse me," our teacher called from the front row. "Driver? Where exactly are we?" No answer. Just the low rumble of the engine and the steady growl of tires on asphalt. A nervous laugh spread among us, the kind you give when you want to believe everything's fine. But my stomach twisted. Something about the way he sat, the way he never moved, felt wrong. The further we went, the stranger things became. The windows should have shown the forest rushing by, but instead, shapes started flickering in the glass. Not trees. Faces. Pale faces pressed against the glass from the outside. Their mouths stretched too wide, screaming silently. But when I jerked my head, there was nothing, just dark woods. I thought I was losing it, until I heard someone in the back whisper, "Did you see that?" The laughter died. Now, there was only hushed breathing, shifting seats, and the pounding of my own heartbeat. "Sir," our teacher tried again, voice shaking, "please stop the bus." That's when the driver moved for the first time. Slowly, unnaturally, he turned his head, and I realized he didn't have a face. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just smooth, pale skin stretched tight over bone. Someone screamed. The faceless driver snapped his head back toward the road, and the bus lurched forward, faster, faster, rattling and shaking as if it would fall apart. Chaos erupted. Kids rushed down the aisle, pounding on the doors, clawing at the windows, crying for help. But the doors wouldn't open, and the glass felt like solid stone under our fists. The bus tore through the endless forest, faster and faster. The trees outside blurred into streaks of black, but the reflections in the glass grew sharper. Hundreds of faces, screaming, wailing, pressing closer until I swore I could feel their breath fogging the window. The faceless driver slammed his hand against the horn, one long, endless note that rattled my skull. And then the headlights caught something ahead. Not a road, not a forest, a wall of darkness, thicker than night itself. The bus hurtled straight into it. We braced for impact, screams filling the air, hands gripping seats, nails tearing into vinyl. And then, nothing, just silence. I woke up to daylight streaming through the windows. The bus was parked neatly outside our school, as if nothing had happened. The doors were open. The driver's seat was empty. One by one, we stumbled off, shaken, pale, but alive. At least, that's what I thought. Because when I looked back through the windows, I saw something that froze me in place. The seats were still warm, indentations pressed into the vinyl, but the reflections in the glass, they weren't ours. They were screaming, twisted, trapped. And on the steering wheel sat the driver's cap, waiting,